The sky over the Sea of Azov is a graveyard of signals. Deep within a darkened command center in central Ukraine, the atmosphere is heavy with the weight of expectation. Technicians stare at flickering monitors, hunting a ghost that has dominated the Ukrainian skies for 2 long years. A single blinking icon appears, moving with a heavy, predictable gait. This is the Beriev A-50, a flying command center worth $250 million. To the Kremlin, it is the Eye of Moscow. To the Ukrainians, it is a target that must die. For 700 days, this machine orchestrated the destruction of Ukrainian cities from the safety of the rear. But tonight, the hunters have become the hunted. The A-50 is more than an airplane. It is a force multiplier of terrifying proportions. A Soviet-era Il-76 hull, equipped with a massive, rotating fiberglass saucer, it houses the Shmel-M radar system. This beast of technology tracks 150 targets simultaneously, guiding Su-35 fighters to their kills without them ever activating their own sensors. Without this conductor, the Russian air orchestra falls silent. Russia possesses only a few operational units, each manned by 15 elite officers. For most of the war, these crews felt untouchable, flying predictable routes in zones they deemed ironclad. They forgot that in modern warfare, predictability is a death sentence. While they sat in climate-controlled cabins, the Ukrainians were in the mud, studying patterns and waiting for the moment the god would blink. But there is a reason this loss is a catastrophic blow to the Russian Federation beyond the immediate tactical defeat. The A-50 is a technological fossil, a relic of a specialized industrial base that no longer exists in its full capacity. These aircraft were the product of a Soviet military-industrial complex that could integrate high-end electronics with heavy airframes on a massive scale. Today, Russia's industrial capacity is strangled by sanctions and a brain drain of its top engineers. You cannot simply order a new A-50 from a factory line. Each lost airframe is a permanent reduction in Russia's strategic reach, a loss of specialized knowledge and hardware that is practically irreplaceable in the current geopolitical climate. When an A-50 hits the water, a piece of Russia's status as a top-tier air power vanishes forever. While the Russian crew feels secure in their airborne fortress, they are being watched by more than just Ukrainian eyes. Hundreds of miles away, in the international airspace over the Black Sea, a U.S. Air Force RC-135 rivet joint circles in a silent, methodical orbit. It is a massive vacuum cleaner for electronic intelligence, soaking up every radio pulse, every radar ping, and every encrypted burst of data emitted by the Russian military. While NATO remains officially outside the direct combat, the invisible hand of Western intelligence is always present. The question remains whispered in the halls of power. Did the rivet joint provide the precise timing of the A-50's movements? Was the data of the refueling orbit fed directly into the Ukrainian command chain? In the world of high-stakes electronic warfare, silence is often the loudest answer. The A-50's fatal flaw is its hunger. To stay on station and keep its massive radar dish spinning, it must meet an IL-78 tanker for a mid-air refueling sequence. This is a high-speed dance where 2 massive aircraft fly inches apart, connected by a fragile fuel probe. During this window, the A-50 is at its most vulnerable. The pilots are focused entirely on the tanker, and the radar operators often reduce their sensitivity to avoid the massive electronic clutter caused by the proximity of the other aircraft. For a few critical minutes, the Eye of Moscow is looking at its own reflection instead of the horizon. It is a moment of total concentration and zero situational awareness. The Ukrainian plan to exploit this window was a masterpiece of tactical deception. They could not use active radar. The moment they turned it on, the A-50 sensors would scream a warning. Instead, they utilized passive detection, listening for the A-50's own radar pulses bouncing off the atmosphere. They moved a Patriot missile battery into the dangerous gray zone under the cover of a winter storm. They traveled at night, hiding the launchers under thermal blankets to evade Russian satellites. They were setting a sniper's nest for a target the size of a house moving at 500 miles per hour. Inside the Ukrainian command post, the air is thick. The commander knows the Il-78 tanker is in position. He knows the A-50 is approaching the rendezvous. He has no radar lock, only coordinates and a timeline calculated over months of observation. He is betting the most valuable weapon in his arsenal on a theory. He waits until the scouts report that the fuel probe has clicked into place. The two Russian planes are now tethered, 180 tons of metal and fuel moving as one. The command is a whisper: fire. A Patriot missile screams out of its canister, a pillar of fire tearing into the freezing night. It climbs into the thin air of the upper atmosphere, reaching Mach 4. But as the missile clears the tree line, the Ukrainian screens erupt in a new, terrifying pattern. A Russian Su-35 escort, patrolling 10 miles above the A-50, has picked up the massive thermal bloom of the launch. For the first time in this operation, the Ukrainians are exposed. The Russian fighter pilot doesn't hesitate. He rolls his jet and dives at supersonic speeds toward the launch site, his own anti-radiation missiles locking onto the Patriot's position. In the Ukrainian trailer, the alarm begins to wail. They have exactly 60 seconds before a Russian missile wipes their multi-billion-dollar battery off the map. But the Patriot missile they just fired is still 40 miles from the A-50. If they turn off their systems and run now to save their lives, the missile will lose its mid-course guidance and miss the target. The commander looks at his crew. They are the target now. The hunter has been spotted, and the world's most expensive game of chicken has just begun. Will they stay to finish the kill, or will they vanish before the Russian hammer falls? The seconds crawl by like hours. 30,000 feet above the sea, the Russian A-50 cockpit is still oblivious to the missile closing in. The pilot makes micro-adjustments to the throttle, eyes locked on the tanker's boom. In the rear cabin, technicians check fuel flow. They have flown this route 100 times. A yellow light on the electronic warfare suite flickers. The co-pilot dismisses it as a glitch, a reflection off the tanker. He does not know the Patriot's seeker head has just woken up 10 miles away. Suddenly, the light turns red. A high-pitched screaming fills the cockpit. The A-50's computers finally recognize the terminal lock. The pilot slams the throttle, screaming for an emergency disconnect. The metal probe snaps with the sound of a gunshot. Raw kerosene sprays into the air, a white mist of panic. But the A-50 cannot pull the G-forces required to dodge. The Patriot missile detonates directly above the radar dish. Thousands of tungsten fragments shred the pressurized cabin in a microsecond. The brain of the Russian air war is gone. The engines ingest debris and flame out. The pride of the Russian aerospace forces begins a terminal tumble into the black water. In the Ukrainian trailer, the icon vanishes. But there is no time to celebrate. The Russian Su-35's missile is seconds away. The Ukrainian crew slams the systems into standby, and the trucks roar to life, tearing through the mud just as a massive explosion rocks the earth behind them. They survived by a heartbeat. The victory ripples further than just one plane. The Su-35 escorts are suddenly blind. Without data links or command, they flee in total disorientation. Russian air defense units on the ground in Crimea, terrified by the sudden disappearance of their command ship and seeing ghosts on their screens, begin to fire at anything that moves. In the chaos, they lock onto their own retreating tankers and surviving aircraft. The myth of the safe zone is shattered. The loss of the A-50 is a wound that will take a decade to heal, if it ever does. It proved that the combination of Western intelligence, sophisticated hardware, and Ukrainian daring can pierce even the most protected layers of Russian air defense. The remaining A-50s have been pulled back hundreds of miles, blinding themselves to stay alive. The sky belongs to those who can stay hidden, and those who can see without being seen. The eye of Moscow has been forced to look away, and the hunt is far from over. Write your tactical analysis in the comments. We'll see you in the next deep dive. Stay sharp.